This is ABC 7 Mornings.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Kreutz. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday, May 30th. We continue to follow the protests that have happened overnight in the East Bay and South Bay over the death of George Floyd, and we're seeing the aftermath now this morning. Of course, George Floyd is the man who died in Minneapolis police custody earlier this week. That sparked nationwide protests. In Oakland, the protesters seemed to disperse around 1:30 this morning. That's after about 5.5 hours of marching and demonstrations. Police say that they are investigating as well an incident involving 2 contract security officers for the Federal Protective Service who were shot. They say one of the officers died from his injury. The other officer is in stable condition. This happened at the federal building on Clay Street at about 9:45 last night. The FBI says a person inside a vehicle began firing gunshots at contract security officers, and police say that they are investigating still to determine whether this shooting is related to the protests. This did happen in the area and around the time of those protests. Now, the Federal Protective Service, which falls under the Department of Homeland Security, provides security and law enforcement services at U.S. government facilities. Oakland police, they say that there are no current protests going on right now this morning, but officers have still been patrolling the streets through the night. Protests turned violent after demonstrators clashed with Oakland police officers and shut down Interstate 880 for some time last night. There was that dramatic video. You're seeing some of that here. Hundreds started marching around 8 last night. They made their way onto the interstate as officers monitored the situation from afar. There they are getting onto a big rig truck. That man there driving the truck stuck in the midst of all of this. Then the demonstration did continue to escalate, and about an hour later, when officers who lined up to block police headquarters, they sprayed tear gas while protesters set off fireworks and threw bottles. Police say multiple officers were injured. You're seeing inside, I think, a CVS here, some looting. They say objects were thrown by protesters, which injured some officers. Those officers, the condition of them is not known at this time. Oakland police, though, they have released this preliminary information this morning from the demonstrations. They say as of now, they know that 60 looters were detained for further investigation. 18 people were arrested by Oakland police. 4 people were arrested by outside agencies, so 22 arrests total. 6 Oakland police officers were injured and 7 outside agency law enforcement were injured, so 13 officers injured. Oakland police say that there is significant property damage to businesses in the downtown area of Oakland after these protests last night, something we've been seeing ourselves all morning. Our reporters on the ground there are seeing that too. ABC 7 News reporter Cornell Bernard is live for us outside of the Target store on Broadway and 27th. And Cornell, that's where looters broke windows and stole merchandise. We can see the damage right there behind you, Cornell.
Yeah, that's right, Liz. I have to tell you, block after block, the damage here in downtown Oakland is extensive and it is remarkable. Take a look. This is the Target here at 27th and Broadway. It was looted last night as protesters broke in. Protesters angry over the death of George Floyd. There was thousands of people on the street last night, and up until 30 minutes ago when we showed up, there was still active looting taking place. Oakland police arrived here, I'd say about 15 minutes ago, and chased a few people away, detained several people as well. But now Oakland police are inside the store, which is flooded, as you can tell. The damage goes on block after block. Car dealerships, retail establishments. There is a sea of glass everywhere you look. My colleague, Jim Huntington, who is the assignment manager for ABC 7 News, has been on scene much earlier than when we showed up. Jim, I know you've seen a lot today. What have you seen? What kind of damage are you seeing?
Good morning, Cornell. Thank you. Before we go to the video, I'd like to point out that we're talking primarily the damage is done on the commercial corridor of Broadway from about the Marriott at 11th Street all the way up to MacArthur, up near the new Kaiser Hospital. I've also driven around Telegraph and seen very little damage. So what I have witnessed this morning since about 6:30 is just this entire stretch. It's about 30 city blocks where a number of businesses have broken windows, graffiti is everywhere. And let's start with the most important story right now would be the shooting at the Federal Building. The contracted security guard for Homeland Security was shot and killed last night in a drive-by shooting. Someone drove by and shot that security guard and another man, and that security guard did die. There is an incredible FBI presence surrounding the Ron Dellums Federal Building at 12th and Clay. Many streets there are still closed. Jefferson is closed between 12th and 14th. And 12th Street is closed between Clay and Jefferson. I counted at least 40 FBI SWAT members in full gear, armed. There are armored vehicles. There's a full investigation ongoing into the shooting and death of the contracted worker. So as far as we know, no arrests have been made. Just down the street, 2 blocks away, in what I'm calling the Civic Center, is where we saw an incredible amount of damage with the Walgreens drugstore. The Walgreens drugstore was completely trashed, just like this Target. And you can see for the damage yourself what it looked like. Next door is a Wells Fargo bank, completely trashed. It looked like they set fire to the ATM. Everywhere around this area, you see burned debris as they started fires last night. I've seen a couple of burned out cars around the downtown Oakland area. As I ventured up Broadway, we went to Mercedes-Benz of Oakland. That's where just 8 hours ago, they were burning a vehicle inside the Mercedes-Benz dealer. We were able to see the black car that was torched. It's kind of hard to see from the sidewalk, but you could smell this putrid plastic odor of the parts of the car that melted in the fire. There were also 6 total cars on the showroom floor, all heavily damaged by the demonstrators. And we talked to the manager of Mercedes-Benz Oakland. Here's what he had to say.
I don't know. It's just it's disappointing. I don't think that from what's going on the current events right now, people should think about how to protest. I mean, without violence and without damage to businesses, especially in Oakland. We're already struggling with all the coronavirus that's going on, but the business doesn't need this.
All right, and so that was the sales manager of Mercedes-Benz, and they're devastated, of course. We did the math. Each one of those cars was worth at least $50,000. So there's at least, that the car that was burned was probably destroyed. So, hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage there, broken windows. Up the street at another vehicle dealership on Auto Row is the Honda dealership. And they're out there this morning. They're cleaning up the glass. It's a very familiar sight here on the commercial corridor of Broadway in downtown Oakland. I talked to an employee who was inside the store. Yes, the inside of the Honda dealer was trashed. He said some cars were damaged, although I could not see damage on the showroom floor. He didn't want to talk. He looked upset. The people that we're talking with are the workers. Man, there are hundreds of workers showing up this morning, cleaning up the broken glass and boarding up the windows in Oakland.
Jim, we've covered protests for years here in downtown Oakland. Have you ever seen damage this extensive on the streets before?
No, I haven't. As you said, we've seen a lot of the Occupy problems in the past, but just the length of the damage, the 30 blocks, the broken windows, the graffiti, it's overwhelming to see.
It is. Jim Huntington, thank you so much for your time and your excellent reporting this morning. Thank you so much, sir.
Why don't you guys talk about security earlier last night?
We have yet to hear from Mayor Libby Schaaf about the extensive damage here in downtown Oakland. How much? A total? We do not know. The city is working on that, but obviously it will be in the millions. We're live in downtown Oakland. Cornell Bernard, ABC 7 News.
Wow. It's stunning, really stunning. Thank you, Cornell. Thank you to Jim. We appreciate that live report.